I will leave Islam right now, but in one condition.
All right, let's check it out again.
Here we go again.
And there are so many mistakes in the Quran that I will show 5 more in this video.
5 more? Bro, you claimed that you had 5 mistakes in the Quran in your first video. I responded to that video and proved that all 5 of those things that you mentioned were not mistakes. You haven't replied to that. Then you made another video and you titled it 5 more mistakes in the Quran. I responded to that as well and proved you wrong. You haven't responded to that. And then about a month and a half later, you make a random video addressing 1 point out of the 10 points and responded back to me. And then what did I do? I responded back to your video and I gave 5 videos, 1 for each verse that you claimed was a mistake. So that so far I've made about 7 to 8 videos replying back to you, and you haven't even been able to show anyone a single mistake in the Holy Quran. All you've done is you've shown your lack of knowledge of history, of Arabic, of science, literally lack of knowledge in all these areas. And now you want to go ahead and show 5 more mistakes? Okay, go on. Let's have a listen and let me refute you again.
The first one is in Surah 5, verse 116, where the Quran confuses Mary with being a part of the Trinity. Christians do have a Trinitarian worldview where there's the Father, the Son, and the Spirit.
So the Quran in chapter 5, verse 116 is his first point. Brother, where is the Trinity? Where in that verse has the Trinity been mentioned? Trinity's not been mentioned. It's not even the word Trinity or the number 3 has not even been mentioned in that verse. In fact, the verse speaks about God who will speak to Jesus, peace be upon him, on the day of judgment, and he will ask him a question saying to Jesus, did you ever ask the people to worship you and your mother as gods beside him? And Jesus will deny it. Trinity is 3. Here there's only 2 people being mentioned, Mary and Jesus. How is that the Trinity? I know you think 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 1, but 1 plus 1 is not 3 either, bro.
Somehow the author of the Quran got the Spirit confused with the mother of Jesus.
The Spirit confused with the mother of Jesus. No, look. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in this verse, and he says Mary, and then he says Jesus, that's 2. They're not replacing anything else. They're not replacing the Spirit. And again, the verse says besides God. So God's already excluded. So how is it the Trinity? Because Mary and Jesus is 2. Your Trinitarian belief system consists of 3 entities. So that is not a mistake. Let's move on to the next one.
Speaking of Mary, the Quran actually thinks that she's the sister of Aaron, the brother of Moses.
You know, there isn't just one Aaron in history, right? You're just showing your lack of historical knowledge here, and it's absolutely atrocious, because the Quran in chapter 19, verse 28, the screenshot that you literally put above your head, has a footnote, a number 1. Let's have a look and see what that says, shall we? It says they meant that they did not expect Mary to do something like that because they held her in high esteem, like they held Aaron, the brother of Moses, in high esteem. It's not actually saying that Mary is the biological Aaron, brother of Moses. Why? Because the Quran in chapter 7, verse number 65 says, and to the people of Ad, we sent their brother Hud. Hud, who was a prophet, was not the literal brother of the people of Ad. All he was from their tribe and nation, but he was referred to as their brother. Let's move on to your next one.
And you wouldn't believe it, but the Quran actually doubles down on this, calling Mary the daughter of Imran, which is the Arabic translation of the name Amram, who is the father of Moses and Aaron.
Okay, so he quotes the Quran in chapter 66, verse 12, where God called Mary, the mother of Jesus, the daughter of Imran. Again, bro, where's the mistake? You do realize there wasn't just one Imran in history, right? The name Imran or Amran, many people have that name. So the father of Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them both, their dad was called Imran, okay. But the father of Mary was also called Imran. These are 2 separate Imrans, not the same one. So Mary had a dad called Imran. Moses had a dad called Imran. God calls Mary the daughter of Imran. It doesn't mean it's the Imran who was the father of Aaron and Moses. So again, you've just showed your lack of knowledge. And also, by the way, just to let you know, our prophet, peace be upon him and his family, he also had an uncle who was called Imran. Now don't try and confuse the prophet's uncle with the dad of Moses. Let's move on to the next one.
Now this one is really interesting. In Surah 532, the Quran thinks that there's this ordination from God to the children of Israel. But this isn't from God. This is just from the Talmud. But the author of the Quran can't actually distinguish what's from God and what is not, so he makes a mistake here.
The Quran chapter 5 verse 32 is not a mistake, and it's not a copy. You can't just take a statement from another book and say, look, the Quran copied it, therefore that's a mistake. That's not even the definition of a mistake. In fact, let me do the same thing to you that you've just done to the Muslims, right? Guys, I'm going to show you a mistake in the New Testament. Ready? The Torah, book of Deuteronomy, or chapter 6 verse 5 says, you shall love the Lord with all your heart and with all your soul. Then, years later in the New Testament, the book of Matthew, chapter 22, verse 37, Jesus said, you shall love the Lord with all your heart and all your soul. See, there's a mistake. Come on, that's not how mistakes work.
Fourth mistake comes.
Wait, fourth mistake? I know you don't know how to count, right? But are you really that slow? You literally have already shown 4 mistakes. This is your potential 5th mistake. The first one was the Trinity issue. The second one was the sister of Aaron. The third one was the daughter of Imran. The fourth one was the Quran copied the Talmud. So this is your 5th issue. But anyway, carry on.
In Surah 2:125, when it says that Abraham and Ishmael built the Kaaba. This is historically completely inaccurate. The first evidence we have of the Kaaba isn't until the 1st century AD.
Another display of your lack of knowledge of history. The Kaaba was not first built by Abraham. In fact, it precedes Abraham, peace be upon him. So that just shows you that you don't know about Islamic history. In fact, we look here, Bidayah wa Nihaya, volume 1, page 163, it states that Adam, peace be upon him, the first of creation, was the first one to build the Kaaba, the house of God in Mecca. The flood of Noah destroyed it, and then Abraham and his son rebuilt it. Same in Tafsir Burhan, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says Abraham rebuilt the house of God and people performed Hajj. Non-Muslim sources, we look at Talmudic writings in early Christianity, they mention that the Ishmaelites had a sacred house, and this was prior to the 1st century. So let me break this down for you. Adam built the house of God. Noah's flood damaged it. Abraham and Ishmael rebuilt it. So no, that's not a mistake. Now let's move on to the next one.
And the last one I just think is kind of ridiculous. It's Surah 67:5. It's the idea that God made the stars in order to be missiles to stone eavesdropping demons. So the stars are actually these things to protect us from the demons.
Quran chapter 67 verse 5, the Arabic does not use the word eavesdropping, firstly, so at least read properly. And then on top of that, the stars, they're not actual missiles. Tafsir Qummi says the phrase we made them missiles means the meteors, not the stars. Now, you're not going to go ahead and deny the existence of meteors now, are you? And Tafsir Mizan, it says that the Quran describes things as they appear to humans. Devils or demons are metaphysical beings. The Quran combines observable reality, which is meteors, and spiritual reality, which is protection from devils, in one concise description. So no, this isn't a mistake either.
The Quran is filled with a multitude of mistakes.
A multitude of mistakes. Bro, it's been about 2 months since I've been responding to your videos, and you failed to show even a single mistake in the Quran. And the funny thing is, you're not replying to me, but you're replying back to everyone else, right? Why?